All right, we are live. We're here with Susanna, Shubhan, Rivka, and myself. We're gonna be covering the news. We have 10 news items that we're gonna be covering. But before we go into the news, please subscribe to our YouTube channel. If you're watching this on Facebook, make sure you come and check out our YouTube channel as well and subscribe to that. And if you're following our Facebook page and subscribe to our YouTube channel, another thing you could do is check in the description, subscribe to our newsletter as well, just in case we get removed from all these platforms. If YouTube and Facebook are like, oh, gone with you, we don't like you here anymore with your controversial topic, then you are at least on our newsletter, so we could reach you out that way. Anyways, enough with the fluff. Susanna, you're muted.
Oh, sorry, I was muted. I was saying hi. What's up?
All right, good.
There was something I wanted to mention before we started the news, but now I can't remember it. Oh yeah, we also have merch available.
Oh yeah.
Subscribe to our Patreon, or if you're not in a place, because obviously we don't want people to be supporting us during these hard times economically if you don't have the flexibility to support us, but maybe, you could just support us one time in the form of a little merch purchase. We got mugs, we got lots of cool stuff.
Yeah, actually, another thing is, do not support us financially if you are suffering financially in any way, even if you're tiny, even if you're just suffering tiny bit and you're struggling and you're like, oh, I don't know if it's a good idea. Do not support us financially. What the hell are you thinking? Do not support us financially if you're struggling in any way. There are other ways you could support us. You could share our videos. You could like, comment, all of that is good. Anyways, let's get to the news.
Okay, first news. UK drug addict jihadist captured. In London, United Kingdom, a supporter of ISIS has been jailed for life with a minimum of 14 years after admitting a plot to blow herself up in a bomb attack on St. Paul's Cathedral in London. Safia Sheikh was born Michelle Ramsden in 1983 and converted to Islam in 2007 after being impressed by the kindness of a neighboring Muslim family. Her adoption of the faith came after a deeply troubled upbringing. She'd spent time in care homes and later become an addict. Evidence from court shows that she was in contact with members of Al-Mujahideen, the British network headed by the jihadist preacher Amjad Chowdhury. Undercover agents intervened in her terrorist plot, and she was arrested a few days after receiving what she believed to be the bombs necessary for her act.
I never get that idea, like, oh, I met some nice people from this religion, so I converted to that religion. And it doesn't work the other way around. Like, oh, I met some people from this religion that were bad people, so I left it. Really? That's your reasoning for leaving the religion? This is why I say to people that, even if every single atheist out there was an asshole, that still is no proof for the existence of God. There's still atheism still stands because there's no evidence. And even if, like, for example, let's say Islam, even if Islam was not responsible for any crimes, any terrorism, any violence, any misery, and every single Muslim out there was the nicest person you've ever met, and non-Muslims were assholes, and every single Muslim was just the kindest, sweetest person you've ever met, the Quran is still horseshit. The Quran and the Islamic ideology is still a barbaric, violent, a book of claims with no evidence. That doesn't change. Okay, you don't decide if an ideology is right or wrong based on how good the people, or good or bad the people who believe it are. Anyways, that's my.
So I obviously agree, but that's coming at it from your very. Oh, thank you for the donation, Soraya. That's awesome. Thank you for the super chat. So what I was saying was that you're obviously taking it from a completely rational standpoint. So this is someone who'd struggled with mental illness and drug addiction for a very long time. And through reading through her story, it's very clear to me that she was seeking any sense of belonging that she could find. Right? So people are not driven into ideologies purely based off of the evidence for how correct or how rational that ideology is. She was looking for someone that could provide her a sense of community. And also what was reiterated to me in this article in the BBC was how she had this desire to get into Jannah. She wanted to get into heaven. She wanted a place of happiness and peace. And to do that, she was willing to conduct this terrorist plot. I think she was looking for relief from her suffering in a certain way. In fact, the police couldn't even interview her the day after they arrested her because she was going through heroin withdrawals. So she was actively using throughout her terrorist days, so to speak. This is someone who I don't think was able to think as rationally as you.
Yeah, and that's where religion takes advantage of our vulnerabilities. Oh, I said that
Certainly.
right. Rivka.
Well, actually, I have a lot to say on this topic, a lot. Specifically what you said, Armin, and then to piggyback on Susanna. So I'm going to start off actually with Susanna because it's easier to go into what I'm going to say, is that you were bringing up the mental health thing. And I think that that's super valid. She's young. Was searching for family life for a long time, had been in care homes. So this is an opportunity for her to find people who are helping her. They're giving her something that she's looking for. Also, often, particularly with these young radicals, hold on, we're seeing that there's a lot of identity tied up in the religion or proving yourself or that's who you are. And to me, she seems like a really good candidate for that. And a lot of cults, whether they're accepted cults or not, even if they're doing it behind their own back, so to speak, they still want more recruits. So they prey on people like this. And sometimes it has really awesome outcomes. And other times, you get this. And I think this sense of identity for her, it fits really well because she's trying to leave behind what she doesn't want to be and what she was. Okay. In care home, a drug addict, no purpose, no family. And so now she's got all this family, etc. So which leads me to my next point. This is the one thing that religion does better than atheists, in my opinion. In community-wise, sometimes amongst us, is that they provide a lot of community support for all kinds of things that somehow isn't the same in terms of having a vast atheist network that's helping with births, deaths, marriages, your kids being bad, watching your kids after school, things like that you can immediately turn to. Some people have it, but some people don't. And I always use the example of, I had a friend, ex-Muslim atheist who had to flee his country in the Middle East because everybody found out he was an atheist when he made a speech in London. And he came to Texas. It was great. We all came together and helped him with that. But I asked him, who's picking you up at the airport? And he said, no one. And then we arranged it. But my point in saying this is, if this guy was a Christian, they would have been fighting each other to pick him up. He would have had an apartment and a job, and they would have taken him around. Same thing if he was Muslim, right? They had a Mercedes to pick him up, to give him a job at the local Arab store. I know I'm making stereotypes, but it's true, and Jewish people too. There's Hindus, there's all kinds of. So my point is, I wish we could do that better and have more of a support network, because I think then maybe it would be a lot easier for people who are trying to leave, particularly mothers with children or people with problems or mental health, to find support, because this is there for them a lot in a way that I want and would hope that we could be, without the woo-woo and the God stuff and the rules and the, blowing stuff up.
Yeah, I mean, this is but one reason why the atheist community is not there for each other as much as other communities are is because a lot of atheists think like, oh, if we build communities, we just become just like religions now.
Right, I know that. I've heard that
and
argument.
It's so dumb, because, okay, great job, guys. Let's just give them community, the monopoly of having communities to religions, right? This is why religion is managing to convince everybody that you need them, right? Like, there are better alternatives to providing community than religious ones that comes with a lot of garbage, religious garbage.
Exactly.
And we need to be able to, we can do so much better than what religion offers, but apparently we don't want to do that because we're so allergic about anything. Like when you say this looks like religion, you're actually confirming to religions that they own community. They have a monopoly over community, over charity, over all of that. Yeah. Oh, thank you.
Sorry.
That's good. No, I like that. Thank you. Anyways, no, I completely agree. I completely agree.
I want to
right.
say one last thing that's not heavy. How much is this like some crazy movie? So this British drug addict, Muslim convert, ISIS terrorist. It's just, it sounds like something you'd see on, you know, on the BBC.
No, I mean, in the movie, if it was in a movie, we'd be like, "Oh, this is too much. The plot is not believable."
Right. And that she's getting high the whole time too.
Right.
While she's.
And I want to give one quote because she chose St. Paul's Cathedral for a specific reason. She said, "I would like to do church, but want to do this." These are screenshots from messages. But want to do a place that also has meaning to kufar, like history. They care more about buildings than people killed. You know where they do the royal weddings? It's possible. Is it possible to put like a bomb with a detonator and then keep shooting until I'm killed? So she wanted to hit people where it hurt, so to speak. But after Subham contributes, I want to give another plug.
No, I was actually about to say this quote. So yeah.
I want to make a comment too. Oh, go ahead. Do you want?
Oh, I was just going to say, piggybacking off of what Rivka was saying earlier about a lack of support amongst our own community. This is why it is so important to support organizations like Atheist Alliance International and their Atheist Support Network. They are one of the most central. I work with them all the time with finding people who are being actively persecuted and helping them with these cases. And they are actually looking for volunteers right now to help them. So if you're interested in being an active part of helping persecuted atheists and non-believers, please look into the Atheist Support Network at AAI. And this also includes Secular Rescue from the Center for Freedom and Inquiry. And this also includes the recent Atheist Refugee Assistance Program that's going on in Turkey that we talked to Onar Romano recently. Oh, am I frozen?
Yeah, you're frozen. Just turn off your mic. Okay, you just turn your cam off and on like this really fast. It will come back. Yeah, like.
Okay, hopefully.
Oh no, it didn't work.
Okay, well, I'm just going to finish my sentence.
Sure.
So basically, the Atheist Refugee Assistance Program is a really important program that's happening in Turkey right now because Turkey has millions of refugees that enter their country while they're trying to escape even more authoritarian Islamic countries. They have to go to Turkey, which is becoming increasingly Islamist and Islamized, and they are doing really, really important work to help support these people. And in fact, a lot of atheist refugees have to lie about their faith to get covered by Christian organizations, for example, to get the support like Rivka was mentioning. And so that's my passion, is really rallying people together to make sure that we do offer these supports.
Okay,
Anyways.
I just want to point out that Susanna is the CEO of Atheist Republic, and she promoted every single community building initiative out there except Atheist Republic's own consulate.
You're right. No, and that's true. We do really important work of helping people with that important aspect of community and belongingness, which are some of the most important predictors of if someone will fall into an absolutist and toxic ideology. So check out our website and join one of our consulates.
Yes.
Armin, I wanted to this was interesting to me to say it here, what she said about it. It's kind of like what you did back in your childhood. She said she would rather die young because she was afraid of going to hell, and she would rather die young and go to heaven. So I thought that was really similar to you. I found that interesting.
Oh wow,
Oh my
that
gosh.
is interesting. Thank you for noticing. We got a $20 super chat from Sayed Ibrahim. Thank you so much. $20. Wow, very generous. And we also
Amazing. Thank you.
got a very kind support from Michael Sherlock.
Michael's the best.
Yeah.
Oh my
Okay.
god. Oh, Hemin.
Oh, Hemin is here. Yes.
Yay.
It's nice
Okay.
to see my friends
I
in the
want to
chat.
say one more thing, though. I know we've been talking about this a lot, but I think it touches on so many things that Atheist Republic does and is about. Because Susanna was saying that Atheist, and Armin brought up Atheist Republic, and Susanna brought it together, saying that it provides this sense of community. It gives people a sense that they're not alone. It has a place to be, identity, all these things. And one of the things that all extremists have in common, whether they're religious extremists or, vegan extremists, is that they are isolated within their own closed circle, right? So breaking that isolation, and then people, so when they leave that, where do they go? Well, they have this, and so I think it's helpful. And then the other thing that people always bring up is, well, he was a drinker or a drug addict, or he was in jail for petty theft, for terrorist act, a lot of Muslim terrorists often. And I think this woman really encompasses this redemption narrative that is part of, for a lot of people who commit some of these acts. And I think it's helpful for people to understand that, because you get a lot of pushback. Well, he's not really a Muslim, or he's not that religious, so the religion doesn't have anything to do with it, even though the person, says that it does. And lastly, with regard to your helping atheists, I have to give a shout out also CFI, Secular Rescue, and Freedom from Religion Foundation, Non-Belief Relief. They've also helped with several folks that I've, been working with. So thanks everybody for that.
Yeah, and I just want to clarify one thing. I feel like a lot of people, and maybe this might be an American thing, but tend to use mental illness kind of as an excuse for these terrorist acts. And I just want to clarify that that's not what I'm saying. I'm trying to give a full picture of what contributes to how people get drawn into a situation like this. And it's part of just like who I am. I have a heart that's probably too big, but I feel really sad for her. The quotes are heartbreaking. She's saying, where was it? I've had a really horrible path. I want forgiveness for everything I've done in my life. I'm scared of not going to Jannah. I've had enough of this place. I want to give something back. And so I feel heartbroken for anyone who thinks that this is the way that they give something back. Right?
I'm just going to quickly read the two quotes, and then because we spent so much time. Spencer Lucas saying Atheist. Thank you, Spencer. He's saying Atheist Republic has done amazing things, and normalizing atheists is high among them. And here's another one from Michael Sherlock saying, seriously speaking, Atheist Republic is the atheist organization. Oh, thank you. Armin, Ali, Susanna, all you guys, and Subham and Rivka, all you guys should really be proud. Thank you. But yeah, just because Susanna didn't explain this very well, I'm just kidding. I'm going to mention the consulates are basically, if you go to our website and you find our consulates, basically what we have done is created a group for every major city around the world, so to help people find atheists close to where they live and meet up. Not during COVID area, by the way. Do not meet up right now. But that's the purpose of it. And if you don't find a consulate in your city, there's an application for you to start one. Anyways, we should go to the next news.
Okay. So, next news. In Iran, man executed for drinking alcohol. A prisoner was executed in Mashhad Central Prison for drinking alcohol. The prisoner was sentenced to death for drinking alcohol for the 6th time and was executed at dawn on July 9th, 2020. This was one of the few recorded executions for drinking alcohol. Due to the lack of transparency in the Islamic Republic's judiciary, most executions in Iran are not declared officially by the authorities. Mahmoud Amri Mojadam, director of Iran Human Rights, said, quote, "With this execution, the Islamic Republic's judicial system has once again proven that its views are no different from those of ISIS," end quote.
Well, it is different from ISIS. I don't know why they say that, but it's barbaric. Just to give you guys some context, you know the recent honor killings in Iran, where the fathers killed their own, daughters because they were found with boys that they did not approve and stuff. There was at least 3 in the past month, right? Which was like those men that killed their daughters, they didn't get executed for their crime. They got a few years in prison. But apparently drinking alcohol, you could get executed for it. And also, just to give you full context, for you to get executed for drinking alcohol in Iran, it's not that common. Like, this was like a headline news, but that doesn't make this like not a big news. Like, this still shows a lot of barbarism. But usually people get away with drinking alcohol if they know how to hide it and crap like that. But also, if you get arrested once for drinking alcohol, the first few times, I think it was either 3 or 4 times, you just get like whipped 80 times each, but the 4th time, I think you get arrested. Either it's the 4th time or the 3rd time. I think it's the 4th time. Then the punishment is execution, which is really sad, because if you get caught 4th time, that means like you probably have a drinking problem and you need like support, and you need like, I don't know, you need a community of people to help you with, like, imagine if you get arrested 3 times and you're getting whipped every time for it, and you're still drinking. You probably have an addiction that you need support and help, and some mental health experts to come and you need help. You don't need to get executed, right? Like these people probably are not choosing to drink alcohol every goddamn time, even if they, so yeah, they got executed for it. But I mean, you would remember that if it's important for you to keep mentioning those like context, like I'm telling you, like if I say like, oh, this doesn't happen often, you guys, some people might think I'm dismissing how serious this news is. But if you don't give that context, then the people who know the context might use it to show like, look, you're not giving the full context, you're not being honest, and you guys making the big deal out of this. But how often this has happened in Iran? So it's important that when you're pointing out the barbarism that is involved in here, you also give the full context, just so that people know that you're a credible source. And another thing I want to point out is that this, some people might wonder, why would the government do this? Because not everything they do is following every line in the Quran, right? Like, so the government of Iran is a theocracy, but they're picking and choosing a lot of times which Islamic things to follow and which ones not to. And it seems like an execution like this seems to be very inconvenient for the image. Like, the Iranian government obviously does care. Like, some people claim that it doesn't care, but no, it does really care about its image around the world. It does like to pretend like it stands for human rights, and and shame countries like Israel and United States for being for not following human rights. I know that sounds moronic, but yeah, that's what they do. And I mean, it's moronic given their own human rights record, right? But then you might ask them, why would they do something like this, given that politically doesn't seem to be convenient for them at all to do so? Well, the reason is that they also have internal struggles, and they have a religious community that they need to be responding to. Like, they have a base that if they go too far away from not enforcing Islamic rules, they might be they have a minority very religious fundamentalist community of people that back the government. And even though it's not most of the country, if they lose that, then they have no support to go by. So they do need to cater to them sometimes. And also another reason why, if they listen to, like, if they give in to some human rights violations and not do them anymore, they do think that might make people more demanding, right? So if people say that, hey, like, cut this out, you can't execute people for drinking alcohol, And if they say, like, if we give in to this demand, it's not going to make these human rights advocates go away. What it's going to signal to them is that we're weak, and if you pressure us too much, then we will bend the knee. And then the Iranian government, like, we have to show to them that no, we're not going to listen to you, or else they're going to get too demanding. So that's another thing that goes in their calculation. But anyways, I'm going to stop talking.
Just to provide some more context, so technically the penal code was amended in 2013, and it goes as follows: where anyone commits the same offense punishable by had 3 times, and each time the had punishment is executed upon him or her, the had punishment on the 4th occasion shall be death penalty. The defendant can therefore face the death penalty after being arrested and punished 3 times for alcohol consumption. And a quote from the man's lawyer, his lawyer's name is Hossein Habibi Shahri. The prisoner's lawyer told Iran Human Rights, "My client was arrested in 2016 or 17. He was convicted of drinking alcohol for the 6th time. Of course, there was also the issue of driving without a license and being in possession of alcohol." So it does sound like this guy maybe had a medical condition in the form of alcoholism that could have been treated appropriately.
Yeah.
Well, I was going to say he keeps drinking because he lives in a country that kills people for drinking. I mean, that kind of shit would drive anybody to want to be numb. I'm making a joke. It's a what they call black humor, but
yeah, dark humor. But yeah, I see what you're saying. But to be fair, most people, yeah.
I want to say, like, this is from an article I read. This is like one of the 123 executions just this year in Iran, and most of the others, like over 100 of the others, were basically premeditated murder, drug-related cases, and rape cases. So it shows that, like, execution for drinking is like really rare, because we just this year there have been like over 100 cases, and just this one is like not at all something serious. The rest of the offenses are quite serious. So I think that shows it's not really that big of a deal to be executed for drinking in Iran.
Okay, let's go to the next news.
Okay, next news. Sentenced to 2 years in jail for homosexuality in Tunisia. In La Kef, Tunisia, a Tunisian court sentenced 2 men accused of sodomy to 2 years in prison. The decision violates their rights to privacy and non-discrimination under international law and Tunisia's 2014 constitution. The police also attempted to subject the defendants to an anal exam, apparently to use as evidence in the case. The prosecutor of the Kef First Instance Tribunal charged the men with sodomy under Article 230 of the Penal Code, which punishes consensual same-sex conduct with up to 3 years in prison. Quote, Tunisia's record of actively prosecuting people for consensual same-sex conduct is deeply worrying and a blatant invasion of their private life, says Yasha Younes, who is a LGBT rights researcher at Human Rights Watch. Quote, while states and international bodies have commended Tunisia for its progress on human rights, the criminalization and prosecution of homosexual conduct signals otherwise, end quote.
Well, at least I shouldn't say that. In Iran, 4,000 to 6,000 people have been executed for just being gay. But this is Tunisia. This is
Tunisia.
Tunisia. Holy, I wasn't even noticing that. This is the best. This is one of the most moderate, most secular Islamic countries out there. So this is what you could expect for the most moderate, most advanced, most enlightened, most less laws by Islam. This is the best that you can expect. Like, so when people tell you, like, you know what, not every Islamic country is bad. There are some Islamic countries that, we have examples of a country could be Islamic and not be like horrible, barbaric laws. They're talking about Tunisia, okay? And this is the best they offer, okay? So
I mean,
the best they offer is that somebody has to go check your butthole to see if you committed the crime or not. I mean, come on, guys. This is like go on. Who wants
by
to
the way,
speak?
I want to say like this is also like what we are reporting last week about Nasser Amari. Like he's supposed to be deported back to Tunisia, where his life is in risk because of his bisexuality and also atheist activism. And this is what Tunisia does. Like the Human Rights Council, I think they asked the Tunisian government to stop the forced anal checkups and everything to determine homosexual conduct, and they said they will stop. But with the forced part, they said that they will just do the checkup with consent. If they give consent, then they will do the checkup. But what they're doing is they will be asking you for consent, but if you don't give, the court might rule that you are guilty. That's why you refuse to do the checkup.
And also, the tests have no scientific or evidentiary value in proving that they're homosexual. I mean, that doesn't mean anything. So it's also, anyways, but I was going to say in 2018 in October, I know the Tunisian parliament introduced draft legislation code for what they call Code on Individual Freedoms or something like that. And it had several proposals from the commission, including getting rid of Article 230, which is what they arrested these guys on, which is the punishment, of homosexuality. And to your point, Armin, yeah, people always say, well, a lot of other countries, Tunisia, Morocco, you can drink and women wear whatever they want, but people also go to jail for adultery in Morocco. It's happened there too. So, yeah, I mean, cheating on your spouse, having whomever you choose, whatever your orientation is, all these criminalizing of those behaviors, it's really bad.
I want to read this comment on Facebook by T.Y. Holland, and he or she is saying, I just kind of feel like as terrible as such a notion is, that's more of a political issue in a country I don't live in, so it's not really my concern. I'm not the world's police. You could just as easily use the headline, 2 people jailed for breaking a law within their country, which isn't really newsworthy. You have to be such a fucking asshole to hear a news about people's rights being violated and then being punished for a crime that has 0 victims. And if the first thing that comes to your mind is not, oh my God, that is horrible. Oh, this is so bad. How dare they do this to people that are not causing any harm to anybody? If the first thing that comes to your mind is like, well, it's not happening in my backyard, so fuck them. If that's what's coming, then you are a horrible garbage human being. If that's what you think, it's not happening in my country, so who gives a shit? And every time these people bring out, well, they violated the law. Seriously, fuck you for supporting unjust laws. Oh my God, and they live in, and the horrible thing about it is that they don't even realize that they live in countries that has better laws because there were people who fought against unjust laws. Do you think that unjust laws just disappear by their own? Do you think unjust laws in your country just went away because other people just sit there and be like, oh yeah, these laws are unjust. Hopefully someday they go away. Oh, okay. DJ responds to TY and saying it's a human rights violation. And then there's another TJ is responding and saying, not everyone follows this page is from the same country as you. It might concern others. It's not a concern to you. Just ignore it. Yeah. Let me see what country this TY is from.
Let him have it. I'm so angry at this comment right now. I don't even have words.
I have something to say. There's another part of that comment that makes me really angry too, because there's one thing for people to say, well, I don't give a fuck about them, they're not from around here, which that's terrible in and of itself, but that's not, in my opinion, that's pretty common for a lot of people just to not care about anything except for what's right in front of their face,
right?
More so than other, but it's still terrible. But what really frosts my pumpkin, as my ex-husband would say, is it's just their country, breaking some law in their country. To me, that is cultural relativism, and that's just disguised bigotry. Because so it's against the law to be gay in Tunisia, and then, well, whatever, that's just how they do over there. I mean, we have rights here, but, they're for us. Whatever they do over there, I don't know if they don't deserve it or, whatever there is going through their mind when they say things like that. But I don't think that they're actively thinking that these people don't deserve human rights. I just think it is a really thoughtless, patronizing, not nice thing to say about people, that they're not smart enough to get human rights,
right?
Worthy enough to have human rights. I mean, I feel like it's just like what I like to sometimes call the racism of liberals too. Like this
racism of lower expectation.
There's that too. There's that too. Bigotry of lowered expectations. But yeah, it's gross.
Can I just read one thing else that TY said? I get that part, man. I'm just saying I wish this page and all others would stick to the topic that the group was established around. Are you fucking serious? This is exactly the entire point of this page. That is exactly what we're like. First of all, sometimes we want to talk about some things that is not our core mission, but this is exactly our core mission. This is the entire point of our existence. God damn it. And by the way, I checked. TY is from United States, so he thinks that everybody should just talk about issues in the United States. This is like American centrist of TY. If why are you showing me things about places that are not United States? There's God damn it, man. Go fuck yourself, TY. Anyways, does anybody want to should we go to the next news, or do you guys have anything else to say about this? Somebody's like, okay, Susanna, next news.
Okay, next news. Oh geez, this is just this makes me so angry. Okay. American football player posts anti-Semitic messages. In America, Philadelphia Eagles wide receiver Deshaun Jackson said he has no hatred towards the Jewish community and has issued 2 separate statements apologizing with a promise to do better after he posted on social media an anti-Semitic message that he attributed to Adolf Hitler and an admiration for the Nation of Islam leader Louis Farrakhan. He posted a quote that said, in part, that white Jews will blackmail America, they will extort America, their plan for world domination won't work if the Negroes know who they are, end quote. Quote, we have spoken with Deshaun Jackson about his social media posts, the Philadelphia Eagles said in a statement. Regardless of his intentions, the messages he shared were offensive, hurtful, and absolutely appalling. They have no place in our society, and they are not condoned or supported in any way by the organization. End quote. So, well, before we started the show, I was announcing that I am declaring a personal jihad this year on, not even just the year, just in general, on the Uyghur genocide and anti-Semitism. And so this story in particular gets me really heated because, we can get into it in a second. I have the full quote that he posted on Twitter that is a lot worse than what I just gave. But the apologism that his defensiveness of him and his position that I have seen coming out of the media absolutely infuriates me. But before I go off, I would like to welcome everyone else to share their opinion.
What? Wait. Rivka, you go first. You're the ex-Jew here.
The anti-Semitism expert. Well, I heard his apology, and I know he was trying. I guess I don't know. It just there were some parts of it that just seemed kind of. He said he didn't know this was from Hitler, and that Hitler, this quote was from Hitler. But even if it wasn't from Hitler, even if it was from the guy down the street, is dealing in tropes. The Jews are controlling America, and they want Black people and Mexicans and immigrants, and they're going to have a race war because they're controlling the world. That's all these tropes, and their plan for world domination. All of that's tropes. So bad, it's Hitler. That's bad, but even worse, like the idea itself, And then when he said that, he said, I only posted that because I wanted to share love and have people, educate my people. So to me, that is him not refuting the idea itself. And then I don't know, I heard much about Farrakhan at all in terms of when he was apologizing, but Louis Farrakhan, I mean, he's straight up anti-Semite, and he has been for a really long time. And lots of people have mentioned it lots of times, and he deals in these tropes, but he also deals in this, especially controlling the world, controlling things that other people do, deceit. He has said that, that the synagogue of Satan was 1996 one, warning people Allah will crucify them if they warned you against the Jews. He talks about all kinds of stuff. He even says really crazy stuff about pedophilia and sexual perversion in Hollywood is because of the influence of Jews. I mean, and that's been out there. I mean, that 1996 is when that quote came out. And there's some that come up to 2016, or 2018, 2019 was the Hollywood thing. So it's really kind of bothersome to me that I didn't hear much about that at all. They just went for the low-hanging fruit,
I just want to mention that I think we had like 90% of all the keywords that YouTube hates in this segment. I didn't think we were going to be able to achieve that in just one segment, but we did. So given that given that this segment of the video is probably going to nuke the video, and nobody's going to be able to see it. It's not going to get shared. It's not going to get recommended. Please make sure you share our videos, because YouTube doesn't like it when we use words like this. But anyways, yeah, continue. Susanna, what you wanted to say something?
Okay, so he posted, on Instagram stories, a picture of a page that he had marked up with highlighter. And on it, it has a quote. I mean, we've already said all the big words, so I'll just go forward. He has on it a quote that is attributed to Hitler. Now, I don't think it is, from what I read and understand, I don't think it's actually something that he said, but it's attributed to him. So that's where the distinction is. But it's also the quote kind of goes into Black Hebrew Israelite territory in some of the wording, which confuses me, because then he was also praising Louis Farrakhan, which is Nation of Islam, and they're very separate. But the Farrakhan praise was in a different post. But the full quote is, quote, Hitler said, quote, because the white Jews know that the Negroes are the real children of Israel, and to keep the Americas secret, the Jews will blackmail America. They will extort America. Their plan for world domination won't work if the Negroes know who they are. The white citizens of America will be terrified to know that all this time they've been mistreating and discriminating and lynching the children of Israel. They will fear God and will destroy them as they destroyed Egypt for doing the same things. So the elite and the Illuminati keeps this secret at all cost. After I die, I will one day cause World War III just by this message, which will be like planting a seed in a people's minds until it sprouts once they nurture that seed and seek more truth and learn that Hitler was right. He posted this to his Instagram story. I have no words. Okay. Now here's where I get really angry. One, I thought, I appreciate his apology. He's saying that he's going to meet with some rabbis and he's going to work with the Jewish community, and he's probably going to be pressured into making a big donation. There are other highly influential people in the sports world who have defended him over this. So one of them, so this was a football player. One of them was an NBA, a basketball player who's since retired. His name is Steven Jackson, no relation. He defended Deshaun's comments, saying that he was speaking the truth. And since then, this other guy, Steven Jackson, has made, I don't even fully consider it an apology, but he's acknowledged that people were upset with him by that. Then, on ESPN, on the very big sports debate show called Undisputed, one of the hosts, Shannon Sharp, when the other host, Skip Bayless, was saying, they were talking about Louis Farrakhan and how Louis Farrakhan was brought into all this. And Skip Bayless said he's made it clear over the years that he does not like Jewish people. And, oh my God, Shannon Sharp said, well, not from the conversations that I've had with the minister, he responded. He's made it clear. Anyone who has sat down with him says that he doesn't. So the defensiveness around Louis Farrakhan is reprehensible. I'm sorry. If you start your sentence talking about him with acknowledging him as the minister, I have no choice but to dismiss what you're about to say, because there is no label of authority that you should be giving this man who is one of the most virulent bigots that we have in this country right now. The other host responded, Skip Bayless responded by talking about how the ADL and the SPLC has labeled him for many years as a virulent anti-Semite, and he just refused to acknowledge it. And I'm very frustrated that people act like acknowledging anti-Semitism in this country detracts from the other racial issues that we have in this country.
Yeah, and
both are true. And in fact, there are a lot of Jews who aren't white. And not only that, not only do we have non-white Jews by American racial standards, we have straight up black Jews all across the world and also within America. So
and within Israel.
And within Israel too. All over the world. And so the acknowledging one does not have to distract from the other, which is where some of this supposed defensiveness comes from. They're saying it's a distraction, and it makes me so angry.
Just for the people who might not know, because we do have an international audience, Louis Farrakhan, all the crap you heard about him by Susanna, this guy has a lot of support, especially among a lot of the leftists in the United States. A lot of the Black Lives Matter people support this guy. Linda Sarsour supports this guy. Even celebrities like Snoop Dogg support this guy. And this guy is like an outright, like, it's not like, those anti-Semites that throw dogs whistles here and there and we're like, oh my God, was this like intentional, unintentional? No, this guy is full on, explicitly in your face, anti-Semite, Jew hating person. And you have politicians and Black Lives Matter activists and top celebrities openly supporting him. Like, this is, but Rivka, go on.
Thank you for saying that. I was going to mention that too, but no, I think that the thing about what Susanna was saying about how Deshaun wasn't refuting him, and how it sort of veered into Nation of Islam territory and then back into, sort of Christian iconography and stuff like that. And the whole thing about that real children of Israel, there's a huge movement on that I see a lot. And I think Deshaun Jackson might be responding to that because he's saying he's just speaking the truth. He doesn't hate anybody, the facts that he knows them. He's trying to educate, so what are the facts? Is he saying the facts are true? Because that's what it sounds like, bro. So, and to your point about it's okay to either hate Jews amongst a lot of this group, or we can't talk about anti-Semitism because it takes away. I think your point's really important because I think it's part of the oppression stacking that's going on, particularly on the left. So they have, the OIR, the oppression index rating, and you get certain points for your OIR, right? And then the sympathometer functions. For some reason, a lot of the left in the United States sees Jews only as Ashkenazi Jews, which are Eastern European Jews, rather, that tend to be white or white-ish looking. Those are the only Jews. And so therefore, they don't really count as a minority group or as someone who has issues with being marginalized or persecuted. And some of them are quite successful. And those tropes about money and Jews go together. So then they go to the bottom of the oppression stack. Nobody really, no sympathometer. So I think that is actually part of what you're seeing, is that you can't talk about it, or it's a lie and they really believe this stuff, that it's really, Jews running the world and all this other stuff that Farrakhan and Hitler and all kinds of other people have said. And the fact that Farrakhan is supported by a lot of very well-known politicians, celebrities, writers, I don't know, what do they call them? Influencers, is highly disturbing. And he's somehow Teflon. It's okay. But here's the thing. There are some things that the Nation of Islam has done or does do that are good. So that's okay because they talk about what he's done for the community. Oh, if you do a food drive or whatever. Well, you know what? So does Hamas. Okay? They might distribute food. But really?
So did Al-Qaeda.
So did Al-Qaeda.
So did ISIS.
The Germans made the trains run on fucking time.
Okay, guys, we're seriously gonna run we're gonna lose. You guys said that you're waging a war against a jihad against anti-Semitism. Like, it seems like you're doing it on our own channel. Like quoting Hitler and white supremacists is not the way for us to.
I'm making a joke.
I know, but YouTube doesn't recognize that. Right now they're trigger happy when it comes to banning channels.
So I guess I have to preface my dark humor.
No, I mean it's fine. I just have to be like, I guess, okay, guys, if our channel gets banned or something, please come out and support us so we can get it back or so. I don't know if they even listen though. Anyways, we should get to the next news.
Don't worry about it, Armin. I'll bring it up at the next month's World Domination meeting. No problem.
Okay, good. Thank you. All right. Next news.
Oh my God. Okay. Yeah, sorry for torpedoing the channel. Okay. But it's important to talk about, and honestly, that was me trying to keep it together. So you haven't seen Jihad yet. Okay, next news. First American civil rights lawsuit over caste discrimination in San Jose, California. So this comes as a follow-up from a news we covered last week. The state of California's Department of Fair Employment and Housing is suing Cisco and its former managers for allegedly discriminating against a Dalit Indian American employee on the basis of his caste. The lawsuit against Cisco is the first civil rights case in the United States where a government entity is suing an American company for failing to protect caste oppressed employees and creating a hostile workplace. Themosi Soundrajahan, oh, I'm sorry, I butchered that, who is the executive director of the nonprofit Equality Labs, stated, quote, this case will create a legal precedent.
You got cut a little bit. Can you repeat the last part?
Okay. Then Mosi Soundrajan, who is the executive director of Equality Labs, which is a nonprofit for South Asian Americans, stated, quote, this case will create a legal precedent that will open the door for other such cases to be revealed across the country. You see similar casteist networks in other fields that have Indian workers, end quote. Between 2010 and 2017, the number of Indian origin people in America grew by 38%. Given this context, caste discrimination has found its way into the American workplace.
Okay, where's our Turkan Exendu? Just kidding. Okay.
And you're yelling at me about stuff that we're going to get in trouble for.
It's the anti-Semitism.
It's the anti-Semitism.
Oh, okay. Subham, you're muted. You know that? Okay.
Okay. So, yeah. The caste discrimination in the foreign workplaces work a bit differently than classic caste discrimination, because the classic caste discrimination is basically, oh, you are by birth you are lower than me and everything like that. But in the workplaces is kind of different, because I have to explain this system and the caste reservation system in India to explain that. So what the caste reservation system is that the Indian Constitution has this thing, like it was first introduced by the British during the colonial times, and then the Indian Constitution adopted it, that the lower caste, which were termed the depressed classes, would get certain reservation quotas in education and job places, so such as like the tribals, like those were okay, first the Shudras got like I have some stats here. So the Shudras would get like 27% of like the reservation seats, and the Dalits would get like around 20%, and the tribals, like those were not even Hindus, like Dalits were still considered as Hindus, but the tribals were not Hindus, they would get around 9% of the seats. So because of this reservation, another kind of discrimination arose among Indians, like, oh, I am high caste, so I didn't come to this job or education or college by reservation. I came here with my own merit, and since you're lower caste, you came here basically without doing anything. You just got a free seat because of reservation. And that's why I've faced this kind of discrimination as well. That's how they discriminate these days. And even when they go abroad, it's like, even if they go abroad, the college they studied in, and even in the workplaces they got into, it's kind of the lower caste got some help because of the reservation, so they have to face discrimination because of that.
Okay, I'm going to read two comments, one on YouTube by Beej and the other one from Facebook. Beej is saying, nothing like bringing the worst of a country with you in a new one. And also Yuval was saying on Facebook, I guess caste discrimination is corporate way of embracing another culture. That's good. Those are good.
That was part of their diversity training.
diversity training. You have to respect your culture, okay? You have to, American racism.
Islamism.
American racism is bad, but Indian racism is good. So, by the way, for people who don't know, Subham, who's having his atheist Rooney, he's actually a Dalit himself, so that's considered the outcast by Hindus. So he's considered like the lowest of the lowest, not just caste. He's like out of the caste system. That's how disgusting and evil and untouchable he is. Okay, but sorry, but oh, so sorry. He's like, okay, if no, we just wow, Soha is here.
Shubham's awesome.
Shubham is awesome. I'm just kidding. But anyway, somebody when I mentioned that Shubham is one of the untouchables, in one of our episodes, somebody offered him a free massage. So I think that's such a great idea. That should be an activism. Free massage, like imagine if like massage places. What are they called? Masseurs, massage parlors in India, like as a form of activism. What they did was, everybody has to pay except the untouchables. That would be amazing. Free massage for the untouchables, right? So that would be, I don't know, that's a great idea. Anyways, anybody else has any?
Yeah, do you have any question? Because I wanted to say something else.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
Okay, so Armin, can you bring up the comments on the original post? Or I can share the screen.
No, hold on, I'll do it.
Okay.
I actually closed it, so I have to reopen it now. Hold on. It's coming, it's loading. Just give me a few seconds. What is it that you want? Which comment?
The top comment. Well, it should be the top comment.
This one?
Yeah. So this saying the caste system and the caste-based reservation both need to be abolished. Only merit should be the evaluation of parameter. So this is exactly how the caste discrimination currently works. They think only merit should be the deciding factor, and anyone who got to here without merit because of the reservation, they are to be discriminated. And I mean, I don't understand, this isn't not even for hundreds of years. This has been here for thousands of years, the discrimination and the oppression. So how, and the caste reservation has been here for just...
I don't understand. What's the problem with this? What's wrong with doing it by merit?
No, so that was I was explaining. So thousands of years of oppression has led to the depressed classes with not getting enough money for proper education. They cannot send their kids for proper tuitioning or schooling and everything. So without proper education, they cannot just hope to get into the better colleges. And if they get into the not so good colleges, they cost even more.
Oh, so you're saying that you can, given all the discrimination they've went through so many years, if you do it by merit right now, it's not going to be fair because they're working with a disadvantage.
Yep.
Okay, so you're talking about a generational poverty and the lack of wealth mobility that needs to be adjusted for before you actually go by a merit system.
Exactly, and after operation for thousands of years, the caste reservation has been here for just a few decades.
Right.
And
it's
not really.
So it's very interesting because with people, for example, in the United States, when they say the effects of slavery and Jim Crow has influenced the Black community in the United States and has even if you have no discrimination, even if you completely eliminate any discrimination today, you're going to see the generational poverty as an effect of Jim Crow and slavery still having an impact today, which is going to leave the Black community at a disadvantage. So that's 200, 300 years of discrimination. You're saying, imagine what more than 1,000 years of discrimination does to a community.
Yep.
Right.
Exactly.
Right.
Not just 1,000, thousands. Just over 2,000 years.
over 2,000. Wow.
And some people are some people make some stupid arguments oh, but I have this Dalit friend whose family is a doctor, whose parent is a doctor, and I have this Brahmin friend who is really poor. That's just because you have one friend, it's not even the Brahmin was appraised to being to below poverty line or something, and the doctor they got that position by their own merit. And even here's the thing, the Dalits or the lower classes who actually get like really high scores, they don't enter the colleges or the jobs through the reservation. They enter through just on their merits, so they can leave that specific reservation spot for someone else who needs it.
Okay, so just to be
And
clear, the caste reservation is meant to adjust for the discrimination that you're talking about, right?
yeah,
It's meant to adjust for that. And Soraya is saying in the YouTube chat that it's not being implemented properly anyways, and it itself is under caste discrimination. And how the caste reservation? How does that work again? Like,
I
does
mean,
that work?
the ones who are like lower castes, they get the specific certificate of caste of their caste, stating that yeah, you are from. They don't use the Hindu terms, like they don't use like Shudra, Dalit, something like that. They use
No,
different terms.
no. What I mean was how is it trying to adjust for the discrimination? That's what I mean.
Oh, by giving them a certain quota of seats. For example, like here's the thing, like
Okay.
in
No,
the on
that's
the
just
central level,
yeah. That's all I wanted to know.
20.
Quotas.
Okay, yeah, okay, yeah,
Okay, quotas.
and here's the thing, like this system is flawed. Basically, like even the upper caste people, like we politically they're known as the general class or the general category, they forge these caste documents just to get that reservation.
Right. By the way, I'm not.
That,
I don't know if quotas are a good way to adjust for discrimination. I'm not saying it is or not, but I've seen a lot of contradictory information on this. So just
and
yeah.
this is another stat, some stats I wanted to share. Like here's the thing, like 20% of the Indians belong to the scheduled caste, which are the Dalits, and 9% belongs to the scheduled tribes or the tribal people, and 41% percent belongs to the other backward classes, which are like the Shudras, and just the remaining 30% belongs to the upper castes. While when we go by the quota system, for the 20% Dalits, only like 15% is reserved in the central level. And for like what was the percentage? 8% is reserved for the scheduled tribe, well, like the tribal people, and around 25% is reserved for like the Shudras, and the rest, the remaining, is completely for like upper caste. And if someone gets really good scores, then they can use that. But just for 30%, the upper caste get like over 50% of seats. So it's not really like I don't see the reason for their complaints. Like they get more than they can make. And even among the lower classes, like Hinduism has this separate subcaste even inside the caste. So like even inside the caste, this subcaste could be higher than this subcaste. So this study which found that only 1% of the lower caste communities are being represented through the reservations. Only 1%. And the rest, they're not even getting any kind of representation because they're just too poor, or sometimes the reservation system just fails to get them.
Okay. Cool. Well, thank you for all that information. That's very interesting. Yeah, good to know. It's good to make sure that we cover bigotry it's good if like the American viewers of our show notice that they don't have a monopoly over discrimination. This is something.
This is they are calling it a landmark case because this is apparently the first time the U.S. government sued a corporation over something like this.
Okay, let's
over caste discrimination. Caste is not a protected category in America thus far. That plenty of corporations has been sued. It's specific to caste.
Maybe it should be.
That's what makes it landmark. And it'll be interesting to see how this evolves. I'm going to be following this lawsuit very closely, so as it evolves, we'll be reporting on it.
All right, can we go to the next news, guys? Or Subham, do you have anything else to say, or can we go to the next news?
No, we can go to the next news.
By the way, that was a lot of helpful information. Thank you, Subham.
Okay, next news. Oh boy. U.S. Supreme Court says religious employers can refuse birth control. The Supreme Court ruled Wednesday that the Trump administration may allow employers and universities to opt out of the Affordable Care Act requirement to provide contraceptive care because of religious or moral objections. The decision greatly expands the ability of employers to claim the exception, and the government estimates that between 70,000 and 126,000 women could lose access to cost-free birth control as a result. The contraceptive case involves a long-running dispute over religious freedom versus the requirement that employers provide cost-free birth control for female employees. Quote, the Supreme Court's decision to allow the Trump administration to put control over people's birth control in the hands of the whims of their bosses and employers is deplorable, says NARAN pro-choice America President Essie Hogue.
Wait, so how many people voted for this? What was it? 5 to 4? Like,
no, it was way more of a majority than that.
What? Are you serious?
Let me find it really quick.
Okay, never mind. So can I understand the?
It was a 7-2. It was a 7-2 vote.
Really? Okay, so can somebody explain to me what's the difference between this and an employer saying that, oh, it's our deeply held beliefs that we don't like vaccines, so we're not going to cover your cost. We're not going to cover you for vaccines because vaccines are against our deeply held beliefs. Like, what is that also allowed now? And if not, what's the difference?
That's probably coming, Armin.
So this case was specific to contraceptive care.
Right.
That's what was specifically being challenged.
I know, but the argument for why this is okay, why does that not apply? Why would that also apply? Like, if this is allowed, couldn't somebody use the same line of reasoning to say, then an employer can technically not cover your costs for vaccines because it's against their deeply held beliefs?
I mean, I'm no attorney, but I'm definitely concerned that it is setting that precedent. Yes, that your deeply held beliefs go above the care of your employees. And it's particularly frustrating to me because people keep acting like the only reason why you have birth control, so-called birth control, is specifically to kill babies. Or, that's how they would hyperbolize it in their, very fundamental thinking, right? But the same medication that is used to prevent pregnancy is also used to treat a great number of health conditions in women that have nothing to do with actually getting pregnant. And this is important to me because I have a condition that falls under that category, right? And so just because some medication can be categorized as birth control because it works on the hormones that go on in your body, I could be refused care if I worked for someone who was religious. Not because I want to not have babies, although that shouldn't even matter to the person I'm working for, but just because my medication that I need happens to fall within that territory. It's ludicrous. And it's putting people's health at risk. And it's going to have to force them to go seek other means of procuring this medication for the crime of being a woman who has a health condition that needs this. And it shouldn't even be exclusive to health condition. It should be period, right?
I just want to say something to see if I could make both right-wing atheists and left-wing atheists agree with this, because I can hear already some people saying, well, this is not the right way to give healthcare anyway. The left-leaning ones are going to say, well, the government should be providing healthcare. The right-leaning people might say, well, no employer should be forced to give healthcare again. If they don't want to, the things that they don't want to, they shouldn't be forced. So both sides might have might want to talk about like, well, this is not even a solution anyways. But I just want to say, like, whatever you think the solution is, whether you're right-wing or left-wing, what we're pointing out that as things are, it's unfair for the rules to be unequally applied to employer based on their religious views, right? So whether you're not or not you think it's right for employers, for the government to get the employers to provide insurance, or it's not the right way to do it, that's not what we're addressing here. While the government is telling employers that they have to provide insurance, it's not fair that some people are using their religious privilege to have the law applied to them not equally, because again, the deeply held beliefs. Okay, so that's what and I think whether you're right wing or left wing, that inconsistency as an atheist should bother you. But go on.
Yeah, this whole thing also has this really kind of odd veneer, very Christian to me, being, not raised that way, and in the sense that it has this original sin sort of stain to it. Like, if I am a company that provides my employers birth control or health insurance rather, and they use that health insurance to purchase birth control, which I'm against, somehow I have now poisoned myself. I'm sinful. I have guilt by association. So I mean, you don't see these kind of things in very much, where you have companies saying, I am so against vaccines, or let's say opioids, because my brother died from an opioid overdose, so I'm refusing to pay for any opioid pain medication for any one of my employees, because if I do, then I'm participating in the system that caused this massive crisis. So there doesn't seem to be this guilt by association with that. I mean, you don't hear that so much. And it's this weird original sin like stain that somehow if you do this thing, that they do this thing somehow, then you're guilty, and that you have to, proclaim this and control things. And I find it just kind of very strange and weird, especially because it has to do with bodies and this, fetishization of, fetuses and control of that process, which by, all of it, it seems weird to me. And then the other thing is that this is all under the guise of religious liberties. That's how this is constantly being the messaging behind this. And that really I find interesting too, because so this group of people and their deeply held beliefs have liberty, but other deeply held beliefs don't get special liberties. And, it's just really a difficult thing to talk to a lot of people about, because they're so involved in the whole culture, a lot of the United States, which does have a lot of this Judeo-Christian culture-ish, in terms of, Christmas is kind of a cultural holiday too, as well as so I don't know. It just seems weird to me. And it has this original sin sort of stain to it. Like these people feel like they're originally sin stained is what I mean. Sorry.
Yeah, so I will say you're totally right. They played a really good marketing game. Okay, so one of the organizations in this case was called Little Sisters of the Poor. And they are a collection of nuns, and they they're focused on providing care for the elderly. And so people are like, what, are you trying to make nuns kill babies? Like they're trying, and the nuns were positioning themselves as when they won, as if at last we can focus on our real work of saving and providing love and care for the elderly, instead of having our faith compromised by this. And it's really none of your business. It makes me so mad.
And it's a kind of a logical fallacy, right? Because what you don't want are people to have unplanned pregnancies, which then result in abortions, then birth control seems like that might be a good way to reduce the number of unplanned pregnancies. But I don't think that's really the goal, right? Because the goal is to control the behavior. And if you have If you don't control your behavior, then the baby's just your punishment and you're stuck with it. I mean, that's how it looks to me on the outside of it. And Mitch McConnell wrote an op-ed in the New York Times, by the way, saying that on religion, the Supreme Court protects the right to be different. So this is the other thing that I think Susanna pointed out, is they're selling this really well. And I will say, and not all Republicans are on this side. Some Democrats agree with this, but in general, this is kind of a Republican. One thing I definitely want to say, man, the Republicans really win the messaging game. They frame the debate every time, and then they force everybody else to respond to them, and then they're all on message. And so that's what they're doing, you know. And he's saying, you know, people have been quick to interpret this as like a culture war thing, cultural left, you know, cultural right. But he's like, oh no, viewing these decisions as a whole rather than one by one, they can be seen not as advancing left or right, but instead as protecting pluralism. The right of individuals and institutions to be different, to teach different doctrines, to dissent from dominant cultural norms, and to practice what they preach. So that sounds kind of good, but anyways, it's really a masterful piece of marketing.
We got a super chat again, another super chat, $20 super chat by Sayyid Ibrahim today. Sayyid Ibrahim is being very generous today. It's amazing. Sayyid is saying religious people have their own birth control. It's called pull out and pray. I just want to mention
Dunkin' roulette. Sorry, go ahead.
No, it's okay. I just want to mention that, guys, I think it's very important for us to mention that this is why it's important for Americans to stop being, you know, fucking morons and not elect this president for another second term. Just stop, you know, just hold on and being, you know, anyways, I don't want to be discriminating against Americans, but please, for the sake of your own country and the rest of the planet, and having a better Supreme Court, do not vote Trump. You know, this is what you get. Okay, here goes, you know, your women's rights and a whole bunch of other rights. You know, it's already you already are seeing the damage that this causes to you for a very long time based on the Supreme Court judges that the Trump chooses. But imagine what it's gonna be like if he's elected for a second term. So yeah, just please.
Well, just to be fair, two liberal judges did agree with this.
Yeah, I'm not saying it's a bulletproof. Yeah, okay, guys, like, no, that's a stupid comeback, Susanna. Because
I'm giving more context because other people are gonna come back and say that.
But yeah, and there are examples of conservative. There are examples of conservative judges voting in a way that we're like, oh, this seems liberal, and we have examples of liberal judges voting in a way that seems conservative. But we're not talking about one examples here and there. We're talking an overall trend that is going to turn the clock back with more conservative judges. Michael Sherlock is saying, I said Americans are fucking morons. No, I never said that. Come on.
Yes, you did.
No, I didn't.
You literally just did.
I specifically said the Americans that voted for Trump stop being fucking morons, specifically on that. You could be a fucking moron on one thing and a genius in something else, okay?
Okay, we'll have to rewind the tape.
No, I specifically said that people that voted for Trump. Here's the thing.
I'm just giving you a hard time.
I know. I just want to clarify. Everybody is a fucking moron about something, okay? Just because you're a fucking moron for voting for Trump, that doesn't mean that you as a whole are a fucking moron, okay? Just like. Anyways. All right. Next, should we go? Do we have anything else, or should we go to next news? Next news.
Okay, next news. China's treatment of Muslims meets definition of genocide. In Xinjiang, China, a new report in foreign policy says that China's oppression of Uyghurs, Kazakhs, and other chiefly Muslim ethnic minorities in northwest China now meets the United Nations definition of genocide. This includes mass sterilization, forced abortions, and mandatory birth control as part of a campaign that has swept up more than 1.5 million people. Researcher Adrian Zenz says that this is probably the largest incarceration of an ethno-religious minority since the Holocaust. He says that for the first time, the ongoing situation in China very specifically meets one of the 5 criteria set forth by the United Nations Convention for the Punishment and Prevention of the Crime of Genocide from 1948, which is the suppression of birth. Zenz called for a, quote, exclusion or sanctioning from multilateral institutions,
right.
either political or possibly economic sanctions, given...
Susanna, go back a little bit.
What was the last thing you heard?
I don't know. You connect just a little bit back and say it again. Your connection really sucks today.
I'm sorry. Okay. Zenz called for the exclusion or sanctioning from multilateral institutions, either political or possibly economic sanctions, given that we also have a situation of forced labor, end quote.
Okay. By the way, Michael Sherlock is saying that the Chinese government is the Saudi Arabia of Asia. I actually think that the Chinese government is worse than Saudi Arabia these days. Show me a concentration camp in Saudi Arabia with 1 million people in it. I mean, again, Saudi Arabia is one of the worst, but I think the Chinese have managed to outcompete them when it comes to at least when it comes to numbers. China is winning the medal when it comes to human rights violations, right? Actually, no, never mind. No, Saudi Arabia, I forgot about the war in, war in Yemen is way worse than the putting people in concentration camp. No, sorry, Saudi Arabia is still on top, sorry. But okay, Susanna, can I read something in the, oh shit, no, here. Can I read this comment?
You can do whatever you want.
Right. Okay. By Jim Morgan. Jim Morgan is saying the U.S. has committed genocides too many times to count. And this is basically under this article, okay, that we're talking about China's human rights violation. Jim is saying Jim Morgan is saying the U.S. has committed genocide too many times to count, and yet even though the international community condemned it strongly, Bush 2 was never sent to stand trial. What does this got to do with China's human rights violation? Can somebody explain to me why is it that every time we have like a human rights violation by another country other than U.S., somebody has to come out and say like, but the United States, like, are you like? I bet you Jim is from United States. Yes, he is. This is called American centrism. You know, the American centrism is not is from right-leaning and left-leaning people. Right-leaning people always like to say like they're the best, and you know, everything the United States does is always amazing, and everything has to be about the United States. But the left-leaning American centrism is the other side of the coin. Everything bad that happens, like, oh, well, United States does it worse. Please just pay attention to the United States. Other countries don't exist. But whether it's the best, United States being the best or the worst, both sides just still have to bring everything back to the United States. But anyways. Oh, Rivka, go on.
I always say that, you know, so the right has this American exceptionalism, they're the best, and the left's American exceptionalism is we're the best at being the worst.
Right. It still has to be about them. It still has to be about them.
It's still this navel gazing inward all the time about how horrible. It's got to be our fault. It's somehow related to us. We're talking about something that's going on in China, specific to China, a Chinese ethnic minority that is being put in concentration camps. They are implanting IUDs and they're sterilizing people. They're putting them in concentration camps for violating their birth rules for Uyghurs. They are not allowed to escape, behavioral violations, whatever that means, which probably means praying, speaking any languages that aren't, Han, also they want to promote this repentance and confession thing, so this is another part of this extremism, leave that behind. You're with us now. You have to repent, and you have to turn in people that aren't following, because then you'll get, especially, it's horrific. It is absolutely horrific. And every single human being who has the ability to speak out against something like this should, because it is absolutely terrible. And I just think it's weird also how, like I posted this originally article about the NPR, and it was good, and I'm glad he interviewed him, but he said we have to be careful using the word genocide. And I feel bad because so many things are referred to that way, that this guy has to, is it genocide, or just genocide? And so that's kind of strange and weird, especially because it's sort of the anniversary of the Srebrenica massacre.
Mhm.
So that, people were like, well, it's not really, a massacre, but it kind of, the whole thing. So, but there was one other thing I wanted to say about this, and now I can't remember what it is. So forget it.
Well, in terms of the genocide thing, he was talking about how previously he was referring to what was going on as a cultural genocide, which is definitely its own very specific thing. But then he was making the distinction based off the Associated Press report that came out recently, that we now have evidence that pushes it to a different level.
Right.
But I do think you're right that people do say genocide too loosely nowadays, unfortunately.
Everything. Yeah. And so that's like that's like immediately going to the Nazi thing, or the, it's just, or the big H, so, but yeah, that's exactly the point. That's why I brought it up. He's saying, no, dude, now it's a genocide, like for real, man, like we crossed the Rubicon into that. And it's just, so 1.5 million. But I remember what it is that Scott Simon was also asking him, like, how can you trust this data? And he's like, well, it's their own data from a lot of it, their meeting notes, some of the other party platforms that are coming out to rural areas, telling them how to enact these programs, so some of the data itself is the Chinese data. So yeah, he said that that's where some of this information is coming from, from them.
Right. Can I just, so first of all, with regards to the data, the reports, there's so many independent reports that are not at all contradictory, coming from China by people that have nothing to do with each other, and they're extremely consistent. If you want to doubt this, go ahead and doubt it, but at least be reasonable doubt, like some very little doubt. Like, don't go, like, you have to believe in such a high level of conspiracy of so many different agencies coming together. Like, you have to be out of your mind to seriously doubt this. Okay, like this is being reported on very, the amount of information that we have on this is very detailed. Okay, so if you just try looking into it before, like, you're saying that this is all horseshit. Okay,
and
this is.
Yeah. I'm sorry. Go ahead. I'm saying I don't mean it's something that China's putting out for other countries, and
leaked.
No, you might not absolutely be able to trust. No, these are like their budget reports that somebody leaked.
Leaked information.
That's what I mean about their data. This is their budget report. This is their policy documents.
So here's the thing: when you have like people running away from these camps, and they're independent from each other, and the reports match, and it's very similar, this is another very good sign that what they're saying is actually happening. There's a lot of good reason why all of this is actually happening. Okay, if you want, just leave room for a little bit of skepticism. That's always healthy, but not so much as if for you to deny what is actually happening. Okay, so that's important. Another thing I want to mention is that the people who keep saying, like, never forget, oh, remember the Holocaust. If they're not talking about this, if they have completely missed the point about why we tell the stories of the Holocaust. They have completely missed the point about never forget. Do you think the things, the atrocities that in history, we just remember them for the sake of just remembering the event that happened. Like, what's the point of remembering? What's the point of saying never forget if it's meant to make us raise the alarm when things like this happen in China? So yeah, you guys are hypocrites if you're saying if you have like Holocaust museums and donate to remembering the history and Holocaust Remembrance Day and don't talk about this, then what's the point of all that? What's the point of all of that? Anyway.
You're completely right. And yeah, this is another item of my personal jihad, so you guys will be hearing more about this. I'm joining Majid Nawaz on the jihad against the Uyghur genocide.
Me too.
Time for next news or any other comments?
Yeah, next news.
Okay.
Oh, I'm a Mujahideen on your jihad.
Okay.
Okay.
Oh, okay. Hell yeah. That's what I'm talking about. Okay. Anyone else who wants to join, comment below. Okay. Next news. UK's approach to male genital cutting is indefensible, says expert. In the United Kingdom, Dr. Kai Moeller, who is the associate professor of law at the London School of Economics, said genital cutting is wrong, quote, as a matter of principle in the Oxford Journal of Legal Studies. He writes, quote, the current dominant view, according to which is in the common law, creates an exception for the case of male genital cutting, which has been shown to be arbitrary and indefensible, end quote. Moeller says that the argument that male genital cutting should be allowed because it is often performed for religious reasons, while male genital cutting has no religious basis, is unconvincing. He says neither form of genital cutting can be justified from the perspective of religious freedom because, quote, the right to manifest one's religion can, and in some scenarios must, be limited when it is necessary to protect the rights of others, end quote. So I wanted to include this news because I often am talking about FGM a lot. I want to bring more awareness to FGM, but I also think that male genital mutilation, more commonly known to as just circumcision, is equally as reprehensible and it is equally as indefensible. And just because it is more socially accepted doesn't mean it's okay. It doesn't mean there is a rational reason for it. There are only rare cases in which it is medically necessary for baby boys. And we need to call this out because the pain it causes is serious.
Yeah, I mean, every time I would go out and say this should have been a crime. And this is one of the most ignored human rights violations that apparently we're just living with and everybody's accepting. Torturing little babies and cutting their genitals with sharp objects, and everybody's like, "Oh yeah, this is the norm. This is a thing." Every time I want to think about how far gone the world is when it comes to how stupid and how moronic the world is, this is what I remind myself in. Most of the planet has accepted that this is on an ongoing basis. We're cutting the genitals of little babies, torturing them, and it's not a crime, and it's normalized, and apparently this is a thing. And people are not raising the alarm on this. This is, to me, that is like, I can't even imagine how we got here. And again, how we got here is with religion. A lot of people also mention that, I know secular people who do this as well, who are not religious. Yeah, I know, but it was normalized because of religion. This was introduced to us with religion. So shut the fuck up. But again, Susanna mentioned that there is it's as bad as FGM. I will actually
it's
go
worse
out
on a mass scale.
Yeah, so on an individual level, female genital mutilation, one female genital mutilation is far worse than one male genital mutilation individually if you compare them. But if you add up the entire misery and entire pain that male genital mutilation causes, then as an aggregate, then male genital mutilation or male circumcision is way, way, way worse of a problem than female genital mutilation, because it's a lot more normalized and it's happening at astronomically much higher numbers than female genital mutilation. Yeah, so this is what, if you go out and arrest somebody, like if you kidnap a grown man in the street and then just take them into a van and then take some knife and just start cutting their genitals, this would be this would be headline news. People would be shocked and outraged. So, but the same thing, if you do that to a defenseless baby that cannot speak for himself, apparently, oh, it's a baby now, that's okay. A grown man, it's not okay. That's torture. That should be a crime. But if you do the same thing, if you torture the same baby with sharp knives, that's accepted into the world that we live today. This is, yeah, I still can't understand how we got here.
I think it's also because of the mentality that babies are their parents' property or something like that. The parents own their babies, so they can do whatever they want with them, which is wrong. I don't think that should be the case. I'm completely against it, but I think that kind of mentality also promotes this.
I used to be only somewhat against male circumcision because I thought, like, okay, this is unnecessary. Everything, the data, the so-called scientific data that shows that this is a good thing have all been debunked, and I was like, okay, this is unnecessary. Why are we doing this to babies? Until we had an expert on our show on secular jihadists, and I was informed that this is all done without anesthetics. And I was like, wait, so you're telling me as we speak right now, there are thousands of babies who are actually being tortured and screaming in pain right now without anesthetics, and nobody is saying shit about it. Like, then I realized, like, okay, this is not just something that is unnecessary and wrong. This is one of the greatest human rights violation that everybody is just being okay with, and everybody is just doing it. When I realized that all of them are experiencing all the pain. But go on.
I think I get really frustrated because so like we say all the time, there's nothing wrong with, in your activism or whatever, having a specific focus, right? Everyone needs to have kind of a specialized focus so that you can be most effective in that focus. And so a lot of people are solely focused on FGM, and it deserves a lot of attention, but I think it gets more sympathy. And people do not take the fight against male genital mutilation seriously. And I will speak from the fact that I used to laugh it off. I used to think it was stupid that people would get this upset about baby penises. I tried to sit through a documentary about this debate between whether male circumcision, genital mutilation is okay or not. And I couldn't get through it because I was laughing because I thought it was silly and stupid that all these adults were so concerned about baby penises, right? And I'm ashamed of myself for thinking that way because it is a serious problem and it's sexist. It's sexist to think that the pain that these baby boys go through is not important in comparison to what these little girls go through. Both are horrific and both need to be banned globally, in my opinion. But so it's okay if you focus on FGM, but I get frustrated when people who focus on FGM refuse to acknowledge the seriousness of male genital mutilation. You can focus on FGM, but please acknowledge that male genital mutilation is important too. Because some I have seen, again, anecdotes, act like it's not a big deal, and it is. It's a huge deal.
Yeah, I actually want to say something about that too. Like, I have a couple things to say. One thing is, I'm so glad about this article. Like, I remember I found this article and I was posting it. This guy isn't just saying, well, it's not really good and it doesn't have any medical need. He is unequivocal. He says, genital cutting is wrong as a matter of principle. And I'm really glad that someone has the balls to say this, because so many people want to kind of pussyfoot around this issue. I know I'm being crazy, but they don't want to come out and take a stand on it. And I like how he does, and that he suggests that they should be, he said that, he's refuting the idea that they should be treated differently, and creates an exception for boys that is arbitrary and indefensible. And he also says that the religious basis is unconvincing. And so I'm just really glad to see just such a really principled stand on this. And I want to say that it is horrifically sexist. It's horrific to do to a child. Another thing about the sexist nature of it, which to your point about thinking it's funny, is people make jokes all the time when I try and talk about this, about how women like it better, or you want the baby to look like their father, or, you know, all these things that somehow it's this very sort of looks-based oriented thing, or group thing as well, or chicks dig it, which is gross to me, which is the exact same thing that you might say about why a woman is circumcised. It's just gross. It's horrific. It's painful. It's terrible for a baby. And then the other thing I want to say, and I'm done with this, is that the idea of consent, like Armin was saying, people are doing this to their babies. It's hurting them. They have no anesthesia. It's going on everywhere. I think and parents get to choose. I think it's a real misunderstanding of what the concept of consent in a medical environment when you have a child. Children can't give consent, but only the person who's having a procedure done to them can give consent. The parents can authorize it. Okay. And when you start talking about it that way, I think that it helps people to really understand that if you tattooed a baby, people would be like, the baby didn't, how do you know? You just said they could do it. The baby, you know, if you know, all kinds of things. If you know, did some other body modification to a baby, like split their tongue or put big holes in their, like not just the ear piercing, but the big ones. So, well, I authorized it. Well, that's all you're doing when you mutilate your child's genital. This child can't consent to that. You don't know what this child's going to want in the future. So anyways, I know we're spending so much time on stuff, but I'm so glad that this lawyer is calling this out. It really needs to be called out. It is a terrible, horrific, sexist, awful practice, and people need to leave children's genitals alone.
Yeah, good. Yeah, that should be a hashtag.
That's mine. Whenever on one of these articles, leave children's genitals alone. And being a parent who had to think about this, like I had a daughter, luckily, in terms of having to deal with my mother, but I mean, absolutely not. You know, I mean, it is horrible, 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 and people take their kids to have it done.
So I'm just going to say a few things, and then we have to move on to the next news. Yuval is saying it's puzzling how many atheists in Israel still practice it and make various excuses for it. That's one. Okay, and I'm also going to share some comments from the Facebook page. Michael is saying...
Wait, it looked like Subham had something to say.
Oh, Subham, go ahead. You go first.
Okay, and no, I wanted to reply to Rivka, when you were talking about tattoos and piercing on babies, that's still going too far. I've seen people going crazy about just when their parents put makeup on babies or just dress them in certain clothes. Even then, people just go crazy, and these people don't care about when they tear off the penises. That's tattoos and piercings are going too far. So we have to look how normalized it has become, that it is not even a concern when you can be crazy for makeup or certain types of clothes on babies, but you are not crazy about tearing off a part of their body.
Right. I also want to mention something Darko mentioned in the YouTube live chat, which is true. There are some rare cases where this is a medical condition that needs to be treated with, with circumcision. We're not talking about those rare cases where there is a medical need for this. We're talking about the vast majority of the time that there is no medical necessity, But obviously, in those rare cases where the doctor says that this is necessary, then obviously do those. With regards, guys, after this, let's just move on to the next news. There's just Michael saying cannot fathom how the religious can think this is a child made in the image of God. Now to mutilate the bit that the deity did not get right does not really say very much about the design capabilities of their God. Stephanie is saying, I didn't even pierce my daughter years until they were old enough to ask for it, but I didn't understand how terrible circumcision was until after I had done it in the hospital when my boys were born. It is definitely a decision that I regret. I try to guide others to do research, but did okay. I don't. I think the rest of it is not written, but yeah. Okay, so that was it.
Michael's comment, though, that the God didn't get it right, that's not true. It's Judaism, right? The covenant. It's not that God's saying he didn't get it right. It's that he demands a blood sacrifice. I'm serious. Over and over and over again. Yahweh wants blood sacrifice.
It's a contract. If you
right,
get,
and that's the blood. That's the part of it. That's the blood sacrifice.
Yeah,
move on.
You give me foreskin. I give you a lot of children. And my question is always like, why does God want foreskin? All over the Bible, like God is obsessed with foreskins. Like, give me foreskins, and I want to know, what is God doing with all that foreskin? What is his plans? Is it a kink thing? I don't understand. Somebody explain that to me.
Well, back in the day, monks thought that the rings around Saturn were Jesus's foreskin. So maybe that's where they're going. They're orbiting Saturn.
Okay. All right, this is getting really weird. Let's
move on.
Let's move on.
Okay. Next news. Will Smith irresponsibly urges people not to elect, quote, godless leaders. In America, during an interview with CNN political commentator Angela Rye on her show called On One, actor Will Smith argued that our country, meaning America, what America needs right now are people who don't promote, quote, destructive aspects of loveless, godless leadership. He said, quote, as a country, I would hope that a part of what we're learning right now is that the destructive aspects of loveless, godless leadership. Do not elect people that don't have God and love in their hearts, end quote. After the interview aired and he got some criticism and pushback, he wrote in a comment, quote, just to clarify, I'm not talking about church or religion, end quote.
Okay, so did you hear what he just said? Even his apology is fucking infuriating, right? So he's not talking about what? He's not talking about church or religion? Is that what he said? So, it doesn't matter what religion you are. It doesn't matter what faith you have or what church you go, as long as you're not a fucking atheist. Just the godless people. I'm not talking about the Muslim. They have their God. Like, hey, I'm not talking about Christian superiority or anything like that. Just get it clear, guys. My apology to the Muslims or the Hindus or the deists that thought I was insulting them. No. I was only talking shit against the atheists. Come on, guys. We can all agree that it's the fucking atheists that we could all hate on. Like, oh my God, this is, I notice this all the time. You know what? This whole video was like, oh, we are so divided. Like, Black Lives Matter. We should get together and like not have discrimination and racism. And we should all be like, come together as a country and fuck those atheists, right? Like, let's not elect atheist politician in office. Like, and he uses the word like loveless and godless as if like, put them next to each other. What did he say exactly? Like, we shouldn't elect God. No, so the title says godless leader, but what he said is loveless and godless. These motherfuckers think they have a monopoly over love. They think they are, they think they're the same thing. Like, they think they're that's what this whole all the mess that the country is dealing with. This is his solution. He thinks it's us. He thinks it's us atheists. The lack of godliness is what is causing all this problem. They are trying to fix. I see this all the time. People like, hey, let's not be so divided. Let's hold hands and sing kumbaya and get united over the fact that we all hate the fucking atheists, and we could all agree with each other that as long as we believe in God and we're not one of those heathens, we could all get along. This is their message of unity. These motherfuckers.
You know what? On so many like different groups that have nothing to do with politics. Like we had Dr. Amy Acton fan page for nurses and other medical people, who is the health director of this one or this other, whatever. So some plain group about cats or whatever. Somebody will put some religious prayer, keep the, God bless this rescuer or this or that, or, or a picture of people praying. And so I would always comment, that's really great that you want to offer support or something, but there's plenty of secular ways to do it. Let's try and keep this group secular. This is a cat group, or this is a medical, group or whatever. And the amount of pushback I got in terms of comments, some people would like it, but everything was that if I don't like it, I should just shut up. If I don't like it, I can just scroll by and be quiet. If I don't like it, I don't have to, And I said, it's not a matter of that. Why is the onus on us, the non-believers, every time to have to put up with this shit, to have to be the ones who are discriminated against, have to be the ones who have to be quiet all the time, have to be the ones who have to acquiesce to your religious privilege, And also, I think that Will Smith has some weird, like, woo-woo rainbows and Care Bears version of God, too, that a lot of people, like, if they're not religious, they say that all the time, but I believe in God, and God is love, because it's...
Okay, but I think, I don't care about it. I think we're missing the point. I think we have to miss on this anti-atheist propaganda that we need to focus on.
You're right. You're right about that, too.
Yeah, but I mean, I hate all that, like, oh, the good love is all, like, yeah, you could do that, go ahead and do that, but fuck you for your anti, this is something that these people, I'm hoping, if we are successful with our atheist activism, by the way, I'm going to play his video for people who think I'm exaggerating, okay? This is something that if we are successful with our anti-atheist activism, they're going to play these videos 10 years from now, and these people are going to be like, oh my God, this looks so bad. Like the same amount, the shit that people like said 10 years ago about black people or Jews, and now they're like playing, and we're like, oh my God, yes, I'm sorry, at that time this was normal, but now with the new standard, we're realizing how bad that is. I'm hoping that hold on, let me finish this, please. But I'm hoping that if we're successful with pushing our atheist activism, the 10 years from now, these videos are going to come back to hunt these motherfuckers down. But let me actually play this video. Let me know if you have the audio, okay?
As a country, I would hope that a part of what we're learning right now is the destructive aspects of loveless, godless leadership. Do not elect people that don't have God and love in their hearts.
Say that for the people in the back.
As a country.
Fuck you, seriously. Like, it's not, how this is not just about even being against ideas. You are actually, this is not about, oh, I think God and love is beneficial, right? This is explicit bigotry, because you're talking about actual discrimination, not electing a group of people. You're actually talking about judging people, like, not, this is not, oh, I'm a Christian, I'm against atheism. No, this is active call out for discrimination against a group of people. Okay, and this was in a context, if you watch the full video, this was in a context of a video of how to bring people together, how to promote love and understanding and unity in a country in this troubled times. This was a video about Black Lives Matter, right? Yes, we should care about Black lives, as long as these Black lives are not atheist, as long as they're not godless, I guess. That's his message. By the way, here's okay, let me just get this all out of the way. A few other points. Yeah, the problem with your country is that you have godlessness in your politics and loveless. Okay, how are they two related? What about all the other godless countries with godless politicians that are doing so much better than the United States, huh? What about Denmark? What about Norway? What about Sweden? What about all those countries that you guys are so jealous of because of the things that they have and you don't, and they're all goddamn, they're godless. So that's one thing, okay? So apparently godlessness doesn't necessarily mean that you have to have division as much as you have in your country. This video again was about Black Lives Matter, right? And they are talking about the problem being godlessness, and they believe in a God that promoted slavery. Slavery, people. Slavery. You want to say something that for the people at the back? Say that. Your God promotes slavery. Okay? Anyways,
I wanted to.
Do you feel better?
Yes, I feel better.
Do you feel better?
Yes.
Okay, good.
I wanted to say, like, is this like the unity they're talking about, like having a common enemy to be against? Like they're just pushing atheists as the common enemy. So when people have a common enemy, they're united. So is it trying to do that? Like, yeah, all religions be united because we have a common enemy, the godless atheists or something like that. And also, I can relate to the situation of Rivka. Like, whenever, like in groups or pages anywhere, like people are saying, commenting all like anything with God or amen or whatever in it. And if I go and say something secular or something like that, people are like, oh, you are spreading hatred against our religion, you I will report you and everything like that. And even like this certain case happened, like this atheist guy, he posted something and I commented something with something like secular or something like that, I don't even remember. And there was this guy replying to me saying, why are you trying to deconvert him, or like why are you trying to make him an atheist if he's religious? And I'm like, he's already an atheist. Why do you just assume everyone to be religious, and anytime someone speaks anything secular at all, you just assume them to be atheist or bad or something like that? Like, yeah, I'm an atheist, but why do you just assume that atheists are bad? Or like, it's like you're really annoying on the internet.
Totally. I think based on what I vaguely know about Will Smith and his family, they're very woo. They've been accused of being Scientologists before. To be charitable, I would say he's talking about more of a pantheistic idea of God. And I think, before Armin goes off, this is me trying to be as charitable as possible. And even that's still bullshit. And when he's saying I'm not talking about church or religion, I believe what he was getting at was we need leaders with more compassion and stronger principles, specifically regarding issues of race. Okay? But if that's what you mean, you should say so. Because the BLM Global Network website...
Wait, say that part again. Say that one part. Say that part again.
What I believe he intended? I believe he intended to say that we need leaders with stronger, more compassion and stronger principles regarding issues of race. But he could have said so if that's what he meant, right? And it's also worth pointing out that on the BLM Global Network website, on the Black Lives Matter website, they specifically say that they advocate for non-believers. That right, is included.
We covered that. We covered that. We gave them kudos for that. Like we were happy about the fact that they included Black atheists. But go on.
Yeah, and so.
Okay,
I don't know if you didn't understand that, but they are included within this movement as well.
Yeah, but let me tell you why you're wrong, Susanna. First of all, I don't. Yeah, because first of all, you're saying like, oh, his God might not be the Christian Bible. Who gives a shit? He's saying that godlessness. Hold on, let me talk. My point is that he's saying godlessness is the problem, and no, godlessness is the solution. God has been historically God has been the problem. Okay, so whether I don't care about his brand of God, if you want to say that people's lack of belief in God is an issue, no, that has not been the case. Okay, so that's my point. And if you're saying like his intention was that there's less compassion and shit like that, that makes it even worse because he thinks God, believing in God, he's associating that with compassion. Again, this goes for these religious fucktards to think that their God their God is the source of compassion and love and morality. So the fact that he means like, oh, I just meant more compassion, and he phrased it as the problem being godlessness. That's horrible. Like, imagine if I said like, okay, we need less Jews in power. Like,
Oh,
what the
boy.
hell are we talking? Like, Armin, what the fuck are you talking about? That's horrible. Like, but what I mean is like we need people with compassion in power. That's what I meant.
Oh,
That makes it
Jesus.
even worse. But
Yeah.
you know what that means? Like, what I'm saying is like, oh, Jews cannot have compassion. How does that make it better? That makes it so much worse. Anyways,
Well, please like and share this video because we just nuked it.
yeah,
So-
yeah.
I just want to say mad props and respect, Armin. I'm just like, I loved hearing you say all that stuff you just said with such passion. Okay, here we go. That's it.
I mean, the only
Heated
time
Armin is my-
no one has a problem with what Armin has to say is when he's heated. Absolutely no one has a problem with what he's saying.
It's my favorite. You really shine. Subham, did you have anything else to add?
No, not really. I mean, this is like another
Oh.
sad case when one of
Okay.
my like really loved actors turned out like this.
Okay, let's go to the last news.
Okay, last news. Indian father gets his daughter a no religion, no caste certificate. In Ahmedabad, India, an Indian father, Rajveer, fought relentlessly so that his 13-year-old daughter's school issued a graduation certificate that left the religion and caste columns blank. The father's last name will also not be included on the certificate so as not to reveal the family's caste and to avoid discrimination. He argued that on the basis of a previous court ruling that declared that Hinduism is not a religion but a way of life, that it therefore follows that Hinduism should not be included in the religion category of his daughter's certificate. It was pretty genius, if you ask me. Last year, Rajveer had also filed a plea in the Gujarat High Court seeking to get the status of an
Gujarat.
atheist. Thank you. Seeking to get the status of an atheist on his own files. That case is still ongoing.
The whole this is just a way of life, not a religion, just backfired on these people. Yes, that's awesome. Okay.
He fought this case by himself. It's
Oh, wow.
awesome.
That's
Yeah.
awesome.
Yes,
Subham.
that's the reason I wanted to like really include this news. Like, really love this guy. This is the third time, to my knowledge, someone has tried to do this, and the second time, to my knowledge, that Hinduism is just a way of life has backfired. The first time was like when a high court said like someone like made some complaints against an artist saying that this is defiling our religion or something like that, vilifying our religion, and the high court just said, oh, but Hinduism is a way of life. They cannot vilify your religion if it's not a religion. So
By the way,
that's
just
lovely.
I just
Yeah.
want to be clear to people. Yes, Hinduism is a way of life and it's a religion. Those two things are not mutually exclusive. And yes, it is a way of life. It's a shitty, barbaric, ancient, racist way of life that needs to die. So yeah, just because something is a way of life, that doesn't mean, oh yeah, oh great, it's a way of life. So is racism. But go on.
What I want to say, like, this is third case, and the first case was like last year around February. This girl got no religion, no caste certificate, and she was successful, and she already had a job and everything. So she was fine legally from legal actions, but she had to face a lot of threats and abuse for what she did, because like not having caste is like, I mean, if you go out, because that is the most horrible thing you can do according to Hinduism. Like the most, I mean, hell, there are tortures in the hells in Hinduism, but outside the hells, that's the most horrible thing. Like if you murder someone, or if you kill a Brahmin, or if you eat beef, kind of things like that, then you will be considered as an outcast. So that's the most horrible thing you can do, and that's why she had to face like lots of social backlash and everything. And the second guy who also tried to do it last year, got successful a few months after like uh, applying for it, but then within a month the High Court withdrew the certificate, saying, "Oh no, we can't give it to you." So he wasn't like successful finally, but I think he's still trying to do it, and this is like the third case, and he's again successful for now. But we don't know, like the girl, his daughter, she's just 13, so she may face a social backlash as she grows up.
Oh, that sucks. I hope she doesn't. Again, these are the people that are normal, like doing, like they're taking a lot of heat, and it's gonna be followed by a whole bunch of people that are gonna be benefiting from these people without actually, and a lot of them are not even gonna appreciate it, right? These are people at the front lines that are making the difference, that are making changes that a shit ton of other people are gonna be enjoying the new normal after them.
There's something like this hypocrisy I saw on Twitter. Like there have been celebrities congratulating these people for like going for the secularism way, but these celebrities, like when the first, like the girl, when she got the no religion no caste certificate for herself, she was the first one. She said that anyone who can afford it, because some people has the caste certificate, like I mentioned in the previous news, like if you are of a lower caste, you have the certificate to get certain benefits. Like not everyone can just afford to like leave their caste, because you are so poor that you need some kind of benefits to get a job, even get a job and get a good education. But if anyone can afford it, they should go for this way. But these celebrities, they can afford it, they can do whatever they want, and they are congratulating her, but they don't do anything like this. They don't go and apply for like a no caste certificate or anything. That's like another thing. And this is one thing like she said about it, like if you really consider India as a secular country, then why can't Indians be seculars? Like why do we have to choose a religion? Why can't, if India is a secular country, why can't we be considered as seculars? Why do we have to choose a religion? And she does have a point.
By the way, Soraya is mentioning in the live chat that this man is not a Dalit, so his experience is still a mild one. Yeah, I mean, obviously, it would have been a lot worse if he was a Dalit, but he probably is taking some heat anyways. It would have been a lot worse if he wasn't, if he was a Dalit. But yeah, fair point. Okay, so that was our last news. Do you guys want to add anything? Because I have something to say to our live chat before.
Okay, I wanted to say another thing about this man, because like in India, if you're not given, if you don't have a like given title from the Mughals or the British in your family as your family last name, then you have a Hindu surname which can determine your caste, by which people can determine your caste. So many people live in the fear that if they reveal their surnames, others will know what their caste is, and they might face discrimination, which also happens in the US, by the way. Many employees, they fear that if they reveal their surnames, they might face discrimination. So this guy actually also tried to drop his surname and got inspired by Elon Musk and just made some random letters and numbers. I don't know, remember what they mean exactly, but he wanted to have those letters and numbers as his surname instead of having a Hindu surname, just so people cannot identify his caste at all. And
Yeah,
also this another guy whose application got rejected for being an atheist. He just changed his surname to Atheist. So literally his surname is Atheist now.
Guys, because people are leaving, I have to make sure I announce this before people leave. Okay, so is that okay? Are you done with the news? Right? Yes. Okay. So guys, I'm in the description. You could see how to follow Susanna on Twitter. I'm also included how to include Subham personally on all of his on YouTube, Twitter, Instagram. Myself, my personal accounts in there. Rivka, I haven't included Rivka yet because she just sent me her personal Facebook page, so I'm going to include that one right shortly after this as well. But if you're interested in anyone like here, like if you want to follow Susanna or Shobhan, or contact them personally or Rivka. I'm going to show you how to follow everybody. It's it's right before the sources for every news that we cover. So yeah, right on top of that, close to the end, but above the sources. So that's where I'm going to include that. So go ahead and follow your favorite person here. And also Atheist you can follow Atheist Republican everywhere as well. So that's all. Rivka is here. Yes, follow Rivka on her Facebook page. I'm gonna go.
You can follow me here
as well
on my new Twitter account at Atheist Ronnie.
Yeah, the link is in the description. Right now, Rivka is not there. So right after this, I'm going to try to add Rivka as well. So yeah. I can't hear you, Rivka. You're muted.
I knew I was muted, but I was saying, it's the anti-Semitism. It's the anti-Semitism.
Okay, I wasn't ready.
Okay, that's great. Okay, guys, love you all. Thank you, people in the live chat. Thank you, Soha. Soha is saying, please like. Oh, Soha is always reminding everybody to please like and subscribe. Yes, thank you so much, Soha. Please like and subscribe. Please like and subscribe. Thank you so much, guys. You always say very controversial stuff, so we need to remind you guys to hit the bell thingy too as well. Hit the bell button because to signal to YouTube that this is an important channel and you should not be suppressed. But thank you, Bish. Thank you, Matt. Thank you, Andrew, AGA, Michael Sherlock, Yuval, everybody that I didn't mention, Andrew, Soraya, Ibrahim who gave us super chats. So yeah, thank you guys, and thank you to our co-hosts, Subham, Susanna, and Rivka. See you guys again next week. Bye.
Bye.